Hi there, greetings and salutations. My microphone's facing the wrong direction. Sorry. My name is Jake Query. That's Derek Schultz.
Whose microphone is facing in the perfect direction.
They didn't tell us we were all of a sudden it was just like, boom, we're going.
Yeah, Vince is like, oh, well, the file's corrupted, and then we had to wait here for a while, and then Vince is like, go,
Yeah, so you're excusing me on this one, right?
A little bit. Whenever Vince is involved, like, that has to be the caveat to, don't get me wrong, he's, nice guy.
Are you wearing a retro? Now, is that an actual 1991 shirt, or is it just made to look?
No, Home Field did this. Yeah, and it's sweet.
That is the way art looked in 1991.
Yeah, hell yeah. Isn't that cool? Our friend Whitney sent this, and we have a relationship going back to one of the IndyCar weekends that you were out. I had her come in studio, and she's always been a huge proponent of the Fever and just women's sports in general, and so she's living. I mean, she's now the director of. I think she's like the director of engagement. I don't know what the exact title is at Home Field, but anyway, she's living her best life because this Fever explosion. She's been on board since like day one on this whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks to our friends at Home Field and Whitney for sending. I probably should have. I've worn this on other shows that we've done, and I probably should have sent something.
You're hiding
to them.
behind a computer screen. Why don't you like?
Well, yeah, like it's cool. I think is it 91?
Yes.
Yeah. 91, 75th running.
But
pretty
like
cool.
Stand up, you can't see it. You got to look at you got to come right here. Yeah, there you go. Thank
look
you.
at that.
See, now people can actually see it. And that's what.
Yeah.
Nobody
All
cares
right.
about that. Hi there. There's a lot to talk about. The Colts are 0-1. And for the 11th straight season, they leave opening week of the National Football League without a win. I don't know that you necessarily say the roof is caving in.
No.
First off, because you're at least happy that it opened.
Sure.
But, Houston's a darn good football team. And this is what it's going to be, Derek. This is how it's going to be for a while. Anthony Richardson on certain plays is going to look unbelievable, and you go, that's why he's a top 5 pick. And Anthony Richardson on other plays is going to make you say, that's why he was their third quarterback to go in that year's draft. I mean, 9 for 19, but 2 of them that he hits on are dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So yin and yang, good and bad, but obviously a lot of promise there for Anthony Richardson. You know the athleticism, you know the size. Look, he got slammed to the turf at one point, and I kind of flippantly said out loud, up 4 to 6 weeks. But he, got up.
Should have been flagged.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that one where he slammed it, where he got driven into the ground was roughing. That was because it was roughing. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious.
It's a tackle.
There are a lot of people, like not just Indianapolis people that
Richardson
saw it and
himself
were
was
surprised.
like, hey, man, it's football.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect him to say? He's not going to want to get fined or anything like that. I mean, it was if that same hit was given to Tom Brady 2 years ago or Peyton Manning when he was still playing, it would have been a 500-yard penalty and a $5 million fine.
But that doesn't mean it would have been the right call.
No, it would have been the right call. I mean, it was clearly roughing. There was a game, I think Josh Allen had one where it wasn't
hadn't blown
roughing.
the whistle dead, and you've got the guy corralled, and you're trying to get him to the ground.
If you're suplexing somebody into the ground, it's roughing. I mean, I'm not. I don't think stepping out on a limb here. You know me, like I'm not some like Colts homer sitting here. I'm not Bob Lamey telling you that it's roughing. I'm telling you that it's roughing.
They didn't call it.
I know they didn't call it. It doesn't mean it wasn't a penalty. It's the NFL.
But either way, there's a lot that we can break down here in terms of the good, the bad, the ugly, etc.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of good. I think there was one blatant and shockingly bad in that game. But let's start with Richardson because that's pretty much what we're going to start with every single week, right? This is essentially his 1.5 season, right? I don't know if it's quite year 2. It's not quite year 1. It's kind of something in between because we only saw him for 4 or 5 games and 10 quarters last year. What I will tell people is that if you're judging Anthony Richardson on like baseline numbers, completion percentage, completions, like I've seen a lot of people be like, well, he only completed 9 passes. Yeah, 3 of them went for over 50 yards, guys. So if you were to split that into 15-yard completions, that would be, 10 extra completions based on, so he'd have 19. Then would you be happy? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's kind of where we're at with judging him. He's just a little bit of a freak of nature. What Richardson gives you is a chance. And the Colts, far too often in the post-Andrew Luck era, have not had somebody at that position that could go out and win them the game. They had guys that could not lose them the game. Jacoby Brissett, I think, is the best example of that, right? I don't like using the term game manager because I think it's dated at this point, but that type of quarterback. The Colts have had some of those, or they've had guys that would straight lose you the game, like Matt Ryan, or be a non-factor to a disaster like Carson Wentz. Now you have a real chance with somebody like Richardson. I thought the interception wasn't his fault, but you miss A.D. Mitchell on at least one, if not two, passes that likely would have been wide open touchdowns,
let
right?
me tell you one thing with the A.D. Mitchell situation that I think we forget about. And it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Look at any other receiver on the Colts roster, and they had time last year to work with Anthony Richardson, to understand Anthony Richardson, for Anthony Richardson to understand them. We forget that A.D. Mitchell has basically had camp, and that's it, because of the fact that Anthony Richardson still, in the early advent of A.D. Mitchell learning the offense, was working on a pitch count, essentially.
No.
And so as a result of that, a lot of times when a guy gets drafted into the NFL, the first thing that happens is, hey, he meets up with his quarterback and they throw 600 balls every morning before they go to Sunrise Cafe, right? and in this case, Anthony Richardson was coming off of shoulder surgery, and I think you can see the timing is just not there with those guys. Will it be there eventually? You would hope. Alec Pierce is a guy that we kind of wrote off, but I will say both of us had said consistently with Alec Pierce, look, he has yet to really go and play with a long ball quarterback, and that's his play, right, is the long ball behind the defense play. And let's wait until we have a guy that can get him the ball there before we determine whether or not he can be a part of this offense. And so far, so good in terms of that. But with A.D. Mitchell, I think it's easy to overlook that just understanding the timing with Anthony. I'm not saying timing is the reason that he's overthrown him, but I just think the symmetry there and the automatic security blanket of that receiver has yet to work itself into comfort.
But you're encouraged by what you've seen so far, even if statistically Mitchell didn't do anything that jumps out.
Got himself open.
That he can get himself open because, Jake, I think the tight end room stinks. Like, let's just kind of call it what it is, at least when it comes to
two targets
being pass catching.
For their tight end. Here's the thing about the Colts, and this is wonderful. The Colts have 17 tight ends.
Yeah, and they all stink.
They've got great. They're just loaded at tight end. They went through fantasy football in rounds 2 through 9. They took tight ends. They're all the same. They had 2 targets, goose egg, 0 catches.
Just a guy.
The two of us right here, Derek and I, had as many catches as a Colts tight end on Sunday.
I shouldn't say they stink. They're a bunch of Jags, right? Just the guys. It's a room full of just the guys.
Correct.
But Pierce, I don't think we wrote off Pierce, and I'm not backtracking now that he had this career game, right? What we said last week, I think, is he's the $190 hitter that comes in and just swings for the fences, right? And he hit 2 bombs on Sunday, basically. I think he's a one-trick pony, but that one trick is really good when you've got somebody like Richardson throwing him the ball.
The other thing, Mike Chappell pointed this out yesterday. And by the way, Query and Schultz is brought to you each and every week by the great folks at Bailey & Wood. We want to thank Bailey & Wood for being on board and being our presenting sponsor. Mike and the group do an outstanding job, and, of course, started out in the south side of Indianapolis, now branched out throughout the Indianapolis area and giving back to the community and getting you the best interest rates in your home. 855-350-HOME is their telephone number, but we always thank Bailey & Wood and our other sponsors that you'll hear about over the course of the show today. That includes Hoagie and Hops. They had a big event over the weekend. We'll get to Chili Water,
Still
which
digesting.
I enjoyed during the event, watching Derek in the event. We'll get to that. Chateau Kitchens, Love Heating and Air, IU Indy. So we are thrilled to have everybody on board here. Derek, in terms of the game itself, Mike Chappell pointed this out on my radio show, and it's a really good point. We can hem and haw about how the tight ends weren't part of the offensive game plan, and A.D. Mitchell, they couldn't find him open, and Jonathan Taylor, they couldn't get on cork. They only ran 43 plays.
Yeah.
When your defense is getting worn down to the point where they're not getting off the field and your offense isn't getting a chance to continuously get reps to show what they can do, that's a problem.
It is a problem, but and I'm not disagreeing with Chap's premise. I mean, 43 plays is absurdly low. A blocked punt basically wipes a possession, right? When you block a punt and then you're right there, bang, end zone, touchdown, that wipes a possession. The big plays, 3 plays for 73 yards, one of their scoring drives, that basically wipes a possession. I think that number, 43 plays, was a little bit of an anomaly. I don't want to let the defense off the hook. The run defense was embarrassingly bad. Embarrassingly bad. Joe Mixon was getting huge chunks whenever he wanted it. And this is a defensive line, Jake, that is supposed to be, like the offensive line, one of the foundational pillars of this team.
Now, Derek,
right?
Let me ask you something. Name a famous island.
What's the one? Mackinac Island?
Name a famous island that TV shows have been about.
Treasure Island?
Okay. I was going to go with Gilligan, but that's also fine.
Gilligan's Island? Yeah.
There's Quarry's Island. It's about the size of this table. Okay. It's not very big.
Yeah.
When I'm alone on an island, I don't need a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty low-key. I mean, you give me some Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Cell phone, I'm good, right?
Sure.
I'm alone on this island, it appears. I don't blame the Colts defensive line because I thought they played well for a quarter. And I thought they got after C.J. Stroud with the help of, on my deserted island that I'm living on, I have coconuts. And I'm sending coconut husk oil or whatever to Lucas Oil Stadium as the new playing surface, and it's slippery, and so I'm getting sacks right there.
Yeah.
Right? But I thought the defensive line played well. The problem is they had no help. And eventually, once they started fatiguing, the linebackers were as soft as could be and got gashed left and right. And then the defensive backs, C.J. Stroud was able to just go deep. And so the defensive line's like, guys, we've been doing our part forever here. I didn't think they were terrible. I think they just simply wore down. And they had 10 guys that are rotating through. But I just think that they got fatigued because nobody else had their back.
The linebackers were the worst unit on the defense on Sunday. The linebackers were the worst one. So I'll give you that. But, like, people going after the cornerbacks, and, look, I understand that that's the narrative going into the season. I agree with that. They're very thin at cornerback. I thought the cornerbacks did about as well as you could have expected them to do against a team that is loaded up with weapons. I expected Nico Collins to have a big game. I expected Stephon Diggs to play well. You know, all these guys that played well, pass-catching-wise, I expected them to play well. What I didn't expect was the Colts to give up 212 yards on the ground. I don't know how that's possible.
Because your defensive line is worn out. That's how.
That's for a defensive line with Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner and the investments that they made there, it's unacceptable. I'm not disagreeing that maybe they did wear down because they're so into the pass rush. 212 yards is embarrassing.
Do you know who their two leading tacklers were on Sunday? The two leading tacklers in the game, they combined for 27 tackles.
I bet Nick Cross was one of them, was he not?
And?
Was the other one Jalen Jones?
No.
Kenny Moore?
No.
I'm thinking it's one of the secondary players just because it wasn't Zaire Franklin. He didn't do anything.
Correct.
Wait, correct that it wasn't Zaire Franklin.
You are correct. It was not. This is how you know you're screwed. I'm not. My name is Jake Query. I'm a talking head of Sports Talk Radio. I am not a football analyst. Well, I'm not a coach, I should say. I'm not an expert. I don't sit down and break down all 22 film, etc. But I know this much. I know that if you were to look, Derek, pull up an NFL game for me from this past weekend that does not include the Indianapolis Colts, please.
Okay.
Pull up a winning
Bears.
Titans Bears. The Bears won the game over the Titans, correct?
Yeah, they came all the way back. It was really funny.
Look up in the box score for me the two leading tacklers for the Chicago Bears.
Two leading tacklers for the Bears were T.J. Edwards.
Okay, position, please.
And Jaquan Barker, linebacker.
Okay.
For Edwards.
Okay. Give me one more game. Just pull up a random game off the top of your head.
Let's do another division game. Who else played it? Jacksonville and why am I forgetting who Jacksonville played?
Miami.
It was a good game. Yeah, Dolphins. Okay, Miami, yeah.
Look up the Dolphins, please. Tell me the Dolphins' leading tackler. And I'm not talking about the Dade County Police Department. The leading tackler for Miami.
God, ESPN, these stupid pop-up videos.
Derek's getting frustrated.
It's just the worst. I'm sorry. Yeah. David Long Jr., also a linebacker.
Okay. When your top two tacklers in a game are Nick Cross, in no particular order here, and Julian Blackman.
Oh, Black was
your two safeties. When your two safeties combine for 27 tackles in a game, no bueno. Yeah. That means that everything in front of them sucked and that you are giving up big chunks. That means there are 27 plays where your last line of defense between the goal line and the end zone are the ones that made a tackle. That's a problem.
Something else, and we can flip this. Like I don't want them to hide from blame. the Colts' run game wasn't good enough.
Totally.
Yes, you can make the argument. Okay,
snaps,
they only had 43 snaps, so maybe they couldn't get anything going. But Jonathan Taylor, I think, did what he could, but I didn't think he had a lot to work with. And that's another thing. Like, the Colts can't afford for their offensive and defensive line to be anything less than excellent at all times. Point blank, period. Okay? That is how they are built to win. They are built to win in the trenches. They need the trenches to be very good to elite at all times. To have a chance against a team like Houston. Like, you could beat Green Bay next week with Malik Zaire, who's not even an NFL quarterback, without those two areas being great. But if you're going to beat, like, Houston, and if you're going to beat some of these real contenders
You mean Malik Willis?
in the league. Yeah, what did I say?
Malik Zaire.
Oh, God, that's the old Notre Dame quarterback. No, Malik Willis, the old Titans quarterback,
right,
who is now the Packers' backup for Jordan Love, who's not going to play on Sunday. Yeah. Sorry, you ever do that where you mess up the name?
If the Colts...
And then you roll right through it?
If the Colts don't win in Green Bay...
Malik Zaire, that's a throwback.
If the Colts go up to Green Bay with Malik Willis... I'm not even going to say if they lose.
Season's over. Yeah, if they lose, season's over. I'm calling it.
If they give up 24 or more points to a Green Bay team led by Malik Willis, there's a huge, and it's fabulous. Everybody goes to Wisconsin, and they're like, you got to stop at the Mars Cheese Castle. Yeah, that's the tour. That's a tourist trap. Okay, that's nothing more than just a little gourmet grocery store. You got to stop at Woodman's in Kenosha. This place is unreal. It's the size of 3 Walmarts, and it's just a legit grocery store.
And that's where Malik Willis was working before the Packers called him?
They have 5,000 flavors of Jell-O, for example. If the Colts give up 24 or more points, every defensive player should stop at Woodman's, employee-owned, by the way, on the way back and just say, you know what, apply now.
Yeah.
Become a stock boy here, because become a bagger. That's the only way you're going to get sacks.
Kenosha.
If you're not getting sacks against Malik Willis and you're getting beat by the Packers offense, then just stay here.
I mean, he's a running back. Like, he's not a quarterback. I don't know if he's ever really been a quarterback.
Colts will be 1-1. There's no way they lose in Green Bay.
Awful draft class. Remember, it was like Kenny Pickett, and who's the kid from Ole Miss?
Kenny Pickett's the guy with the little hands.
Corral? Was that his name?
That's right.
Yeah. Where is he now?
Matt Corral?
Yeah.
USFL, I think.
Oh, is he not in the league even anymore?
I think.
Okay, let's look up and see where Matt
Kenny
Corral
Pickett's
is.
the one with the little hands. Remember?
Yeah, and the Steelers
like
really kind of gave him a go, but it didn't really work. Corral is an American professional football quarterback who is a free agent. He was with the Vikings in camp, but has not yet made a team.
Look, I was my island. Right here, my island of the desk.
Pop-Tarts.
I was on that island by myself when I said I thought the Colts were going to beat Houston. I believe I said 29-24.
I thought they were going to win too.
And then so I'm not panicking by any stretch, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to make a guarantee. A guarantee. The Colts will be 1-1. They will win in Green Bay.
I mean, I don't think you're stepping out on. I think the Colts are going to be a popular survivor pool.
Correct.
Level pick. I do. Two other things I wanted to mention. Welcome back, Ashton Doolin.
Yeah.
I love that he's become like a mainstay.
They need guys in space, and he made a play of a guy in space.
You know what? Like, he's steady, he's solid, but 2 or 3 times a year, Ashton Doolin just makes a huge game-breaking play. Whether it be on special teams or offense or something like that. Also, God love him. We have a lot of smart people that are in charge of constructing these wonderful facilities that we have in Indianapolis for sports. But it just feels like with Lucas Oil Stadium, there's always something that you're like, how is this possible? Like, that turf, does it need to get broken in? Is that what the deal is? Like, they were playing on a freaking ice rink.
Well, here's the thing, Derek, kidding aside. So, as I understand it, whether it's the National Football League or it was the city of Indianapolis or whatever it may be, the new turf, the old turf had rubber pellets in it that were the simulated dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd see like a guy'd make a play and you'd see like the black pellets flying through the air. And it was effective and good and whatever else. And I don't mean this, I'm being totally serious here. I had read that one of the considering factors in replacing that, I don't even know if it was injury as much as, if you go back, Derek, it's terrible to say, but have you read the stories about Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia?
About how much of a dump it is, but just about the AstroTurf causing injuries?
The players that played the Philadelphia Phillies of the 80s and 90s, Darren Dalton, there are like 7 players. Lenny Dykstra, I think, might be one of them. There are 7 players that have developed some form of cancer.
Oh, I did hear about this, yes.
And they believe it was from chemicals that was in the plastic of the turf, and it just vaporizing under the sun, and these guys basically getting microwaved, right? Not to that extent at all, but it's my understanding that there was I don't know if there was research that the rubber was bad or whatever else, but there was some concern also of, hey, does long-range exposure to this or guys accidentally, inhaling some of them or whatever else, does that have health risk? So they went to a new organic simulated dirt that is a coconut husk of some sort, which my understanding is it's very soft, it's buoyant, whatever else, but it is slippery, especially in the areas where the field is painted. And so the C.J. Stroud notably had problems with it. I think, Richardson slipped down on the 60-yard pass, which made it that much more incredible. But yes, there is something slippery about the turf. To me, that's of less concern than this. If I was a season ticket holder for the Indianapolis Colts in a suite, if I owned a suite for the Indianapolis Colts, and the way to get to and I'm sure there are other ways to get to the suite level, but if you are in the northwest corner of the stadium and you need to get up to a suite level that you paid a lot of money for, and the only way to do so is via the elevator, there are 2 elevators in a building for 70,000 people.
Yeah, you go all the way to the other end of the stadium to get to the next elevator.
It's a 20-minute wait.
The fact that they only put 2 elevators there instead of like 4, and you don't have a dedicated media elevator, which would drive me crazy, not because I'm a media member, but if I'm a celebrity, if I'm trying to get up to the suites and I'm Peyton Manning or something, the last thing that I want to do is be going up there with, some writer from NFL.com cheesing over me or asking me questions. You know what I mean?
Right.
Most of the stadiums that I've been to have a dedicated media
and
elevator.
Coaches
Coaches the same thing. Remember when they rush through the press room and then they're going down the elevator and you have to hold the media back? It's like everybody is sharing that same elevator bay, and it's just ridiculous. Very, very poor planning.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we're complaining about something that affects 2% of the people that are actually attending the games.
But the game itself, you are correct in the fact that the new turf, I don't know if it's something that just works itself out, but it definitely was slippery.
It's something to keep an eye on, right?
Sure.
I mean, going forward. You had mentioned Anthony Richardson loading up for that play. Let's talk about it. It is our – oh, wait, actually, that's our Love That Play. Sorry. Hold that thought. Fine.
Well, let's do Love That Play.
No.
Why don't we just do Love That Play? Derek just spilled the beans. Chris and John Love are like, hey, we're waiting for Love That Play.
But we have our Sando. We have a schedule that we have to follow.
Derek, I talked to the folks at Hoagies and Hops when we were there for our event over the weekend. And they said, you know what? We understand if Love That Play slips in front of us.
See, Vince has got the logo up, so we have to do Hoagies. We have a schedule that we have to follow, or else there will be issues if we do not follow it.
Well, Christian John Love,
I know we will get Love That. Okay, Vince. Yeah, see, Vince. Now,
Love That Play is brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is their website, love-hvac.com.
I'm taking a bite of the sandwich.
Love Heating and Air, of course, has been around for over 100 years. Since 1920, a family-owned business now in its 4th generation. Whether you, this time of year, perfect to make sure the furnace is up and running, make sure that you're good to go because the weather's starting to turn a little bit. And the best thing about Love Heating and Air, aside from their 24-hour on-call maintenance, they're going to treat you like family, and you can trust them. You're inviting somebody into your home. You want somebody that you can trust, and also somebody, when they're looking at it, that if it's not an expensive job, is not going to try to sell you on an expensive job. They're going to be honest and say, you know what, you just need this cleaning for right now, and then later we can revisit what you need to get done. That's what you love. They also specialize in older homes, Meridian, Kessler area, but all of Marion and the Donut counties. Love-HVAC.com brings us each and every week our favorite play of the week. And Derek, you just kind of spilled the beans on what you would think it would be for this one, right?
I mean, it's not even what I would think. It is. We've been doing Love That Play for 4 years, and it's one of the most incredible plays of that time. And that's not to say that Richardson is going to become some star quarterback, even though I'm very bullish, I think you are as well, on Anthony Richardson's career. But I think it's a representation, that throw, of what this guy can do. The fact that he slipped and really didn't have time to like load up.
Do you remember, Derek? I know I cut you off there.
And just launched the ball. Insane.
One of the most famous plays in college football of the last 30 years, one of my favorite plays, is the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary from Colorado and Michigan. That play, which catapulted for Cordell Stewart, who many thought was he played receiver primarily in the NFL, and then he went back to quarterback. Slash was his nickname. People were sold on Cordell Stewart as a quarterback because of that play, almost notably. Because when Colorado needed a Hail Mary, he drops back, and he drops back with all the time in the world and puts everything he has into it. And Michael Westbrook makes the catch, and I remember, I think it was Bob Greasy, saying he threw that ball about 65 yards in the air, and it was unbelievable. Anthony Richardson, on that play, drops back. I believe he was at his own 36 maybe, and he slips and throws it while falling backwards off the slip, throws the ball. Pierce catches it essentially at the 2. We figured out it was a 62 yards through the air pass, and he wasn't even lined up and able to move forward and uncork it, right? Yeah. Truly a remarkable play. And the best thing about it also is it's not like Pierce had to wait on it or lunge for it. It was right where it needed to be.
And over 2 defenders. It wasn't like Pierce was running wide open.
Right.
It was 65.3 AY, which is crazy. It's the third highest AY since they started tracking that stat. And the only 2 that were higher AY were both Hail Marys.
What is that?
You just mentioned with air yards. So you just mentioned how far it went. It was 65.3 yards in the air, AY.
Well, here's the thing. He's at the 36, right?
I'm telling you, they measured it, and it's 65.3.
But if he's at the...
They said...
He was at the 31?
30. Okay, 31. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought Rick was correcting me. He was correcting you.
So he's at the 31.
Yeah, and it was caught at the 2, right? Or the 3, maybe?
Okay, so
4 yard line. Yeah, it was caught pretty close to the goal line. He wasn't in the end zone when he caught the ball, but it was pretty darn close.
I've never heard AY.
I saw a passing chart.
AR. His name is Anthony Richardson.
AR is Mr. AY. I saw a passing chart that the arrow for the throw was off the chart because they couldn't even measure it. It's just an incredible play. You had national people chiming in, being like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I've ever seen a throw like that." And so that's why, the 9 completions and things like that, I just kind of scoff at that whole thing. Is it better to have one completion that's like that, or would you have rather had that split into 6 separate 10-yard completions, right?
Well, 9 for 19 in the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you
this.
but
who cares? 9 for 19, my point is, Jake, is it doesn't tell the story.
If you were given time, if we just went out on a field, and you were given time, you can get a running start, whatever you're most comfortable with, what's the furthest you could throw a ball through the air?
I could probably do half that AY. I could probably do 30 AY.
I think it's farther than you think.
No, I don't think so. I have a pretty good handle on AY. Yeah.
First off, your hands are tiny.
They're small, but there's a lot of velocity. It's a lot of these muscles here, back here.
No, it
and
actually,
when you're winding up and throwing.
No, it actually comes all right here.
I'm just kind of a football nerd, so I know. And then when you're winding up and throwing, and then you have these muscles here, this is all stacked up. I know that the hands are small. I have Kenny Pickett hands, but I've got almost like a Brett Favre type throw. So I would guarantee, regardless of what it is, I would throw farther than you. Guaranteed. Even though you have larger hands than I do. Doesn't matter.
I did throw a football on Sunday, and I will admit, and I don't know if it's rotator cuff or whatever it is, but I will admit that when I throw this way, now, there is a soreness in here that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want you to get hurt.
I probably, hey, look, unlike you, I'm a realist, so I will admit, I probably couldn't throw it 25 yards.
Yeah. No, I believe that because your body's starting to break down. You're getting to that age. I'm still
you are
in the prime of my life.
You're quickly catching up to me on the gray area. I'm
still in the prime. Yeah, but my body is compensating in other areas. Everything else looks really good. It's just this is starting to go a little bit south.
Listen,
353-2141.
About 3 times a year we have this debate.
Love-HVAC.com.
We have 9 female listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I would bet you that if we were to take a survey in the Electoral College, I would actually win in terms of the females that would say that I'm sexier than you.
Well, April carries a lot of weight because she's been with us for a
Understood.
long time.
I love April.
And
My
April is a definitive vote in my direction.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I don't
She
think
has
so.
said, hi, April, if you're
Well,
watching.
here's
She
the
has said
difference,
as
though.
much.
April and Shannon get along real well, so maybe.
No, we're not counting. We're not counting wives and girlfriends.
I know.
on this.
I'm saying
yeah,
April's
yeah.
being respectful to Shannon, just because she knows Shannon. So maybe that's why she's. You know what I mean? She wants
No,
to be
I
courteous.
mean, April watches this show for me.
No.
As do a lot of people. Not even like in a sexual
know.
attraction type way. Like a lot of people watch this show for me. That's kind of how it's always been. We've
Okay,
measured the audience, and that's.
let me
that's-
ask you
when,
this.
when I'm out, it's just it's a
Let
disaster.
me ask you this. Since I am 25% older than you,
Mm-hmm.
is there a learning curve at all? Is there a grading curve? Not learning, a grading curve here.
Because your body's breaking down, and I'm still in my sexual prime.
I don't know about that part. Did you ever
Well,
have
yeah,
a
I mean,
prime?
you're not around for that. But I can tell you factually that I am. What were you gonna say?
What I'm saying is you have to equate. I mean, even with being 25% more aged than you, I'm still 25% better looking than you are.
Yeah, no, I don't. We have a lot still to get to. We lost an American icon on Monday. We're taping this on Tuesday. Some final Colts thoughts, some college football. We'll fit in some fever as well. So let's just go ahead and move on and get to our Hoagie
Should we have
Hero of the
people
Week
vote
when
on
we come
this?
back. It's
You
Query and
don't
Schultz,
even want to think about how that vote would go.
presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network. Back to the Sports Talk next.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in, it's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC,
Nice snap.
mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. It's Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group, ISC Sports Network. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Hi. Thank you for joining us. Colts 0-1, but like we said, some positives to take out of that, and I don't think it casts a spell on the season like remember the 2020 opener against Jacksonville? Or God,
There have been some duds, man.
the tie
Gary
against
Collins
Tennessee.
game?
Well, yeah, that's not even part of this streak. But the tie against Tennessee, the tie in Houston was a big red
remember
flag, a big red flag with the Matt Ryan year. Anyway, I don't think this loss equates to that. But it's time for our Hoagie.
It wasn't
and our
even
hero.
Listen, the weekend was made on Saturday, regardless of what happened on Sunday, right?
Oh yeah, we had the Hoagie eating contest at 42nd and Boulevard at Chiliwater Tap Room and Hoagies and Hops. Proud to announce. I don't know if Christina wanted me to make this public or not, but I don't know why she wouldn't. Over $1,500 raised for Hoosier veterans. Really, really cool. Great turnout. I think it was an all-time enrollment for the Hoagie eating contest. 30 people, including myself. Jake did not participate. He decided to video and make snarky comments. Winner of my table, because that's all that matters, because Corn is like the 4 or 5-time champion of this, and he
Five
eats
now.
it. Yeah, he eats an 18-inch Hog Island Italian in 3.5 minutes, which is impossible to do. Winner of our table, congratulations to Darren King.
Darren was on it, man.
First time that Darren's
Now,
ever won at our table.
I tried to send video, but I don't think the video probably went through.
Well, and
Video did
you
not
taped
go
it
through.
vertically, yeah. Like, look at that, a couple of good-looking dudes there. That's our pal Greg Poley, on the far right, longtime radio listener of the show, and then of course a supporter of the TV version of the show. Darren is in the sunglasses right there. He was geared up and ready to go. Across from him was his 15-year-old son Leighton, who participated.
Corn, who won right there.
There was a butler. Corn is sitting right behind me, the
Correct.
bald gentleman right behind me, who ate it in 3.5 minutes. I was just there for the vibes. If I was there to compete,
Clearly, I
I
watched.
would have podiumed. But I was just kind of there for the vibes. I mean, I took it seriously enough to finish second at our table. But I was mostly there for the vibes. We don't have the Hog Island this time. We have the Market Street. So, little chopped turk, little ham, little.
What's the cheese here? Because the cheese.
This is
fat.
Munster on here. Little slaw, and house-made slaw, house-made Thousand Island dressing. You know,
You got mayonnaise on your lip. Get it off there.
Thousand Island, buddy. Did you hear what I said? I just ran down the ingredients. There's no mayo in it. Even though there's probably mayo in the Thousand Island. Every time we have this sandwich, I've actually, full disclosure, when I've gone into Hoagies and Hops, I've never actually ordered this on my own.
Right.
Like, I've done hog, I've always done cheesesteak or whatever. Like, I kind of rotate through 3 or 4, even though there are other sandwiches that I enjoy. This is, of the sandwiches that I don't regularly order, this is my favorite one.
Here's the thing about Hoagies and Hops. Not only are they consistently doing things to give back, like what you saw with helping out Hoosier veterans, but being in there on a Saturday, this is the perfect time of year. Because on a Saturday at Hoagies and Hops, you're right there at 42nd and Boulevard, and it has kind of that southern Philly corner feel to it. But Phillyopolis, right? That's what they say, the marriage of Philly and Indianapolis. I love it because it's an open-air environment. You've got chili water right next door. It's basically one big place. I went and got a draft beer, which was fabulous while I was watching you guys in the challenge on Saturday. But the place is packed with people watching college football games. They had Penn State on. They had, later Notre Dame was on. And people are watching games, and it's packed, and it's fun, and it just feels like college football, NFL Sunday, football weekend, fall in the air, perfect. Get a sandwich. I personally love, of course, the steak and cheese would be my favorite, right?
Cheesesteak,
the Philly cheesesteak. But whatever you're eating, it's fabulous. Whatever you're drinking there from chili water is great, and the environment, atmosphere. That's what I love about it.
It was a perfect early fall afternoon.
Great. It was absolutely perfect.
On Saturday. So check out the Market Street next time you get a chance. Our hero of the week, kind of parlaying into the Love That Play. I mean, honestly, Jake, I think he was the only – am I wrong to say this? Was Alec Pierce the only Colts player that turned in a I can't possibly criticize his performance? It feels like everybody else had a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. Like, I don't think anybody was terrible. Like, I can't think – Ryan Kelly, I think, struggled. I think the corner – I don't think Zaire Franklin played well whatsoever. But overall, like, I don't think anybody was overly great or overly bad, but the only person that was overly great was Pierce. His most underrated catch, did you see that one that he caught across the middle where he kind of had to reach his hands up? Anthony Richardson threw that at 450 miles an hour, and Pierce came up and reached, he was running this way, reached behind him and caught it, and I thought that was maybe his most impressive catch.
3 for 125, right?
Yeah, career high in yards. It's only his second 100-yard game ever. And I think it just shows that the Colts have been adamant that Alec Pierce is going to be a part of this offense this year.
Right.
They did not draft A.D. Mitchell to replace Alec Pierce. They drafted him to complement Alec Pierce and the rest of the passing attack.
You need playmakers. You need speed. Look at Kansas City. Look at the teams that we've seen. I mean, that Kansas City, whether you're watching Buffalo, you get guys in space and you let them go, right? Mm-hmm. The Baltimore had it as well. The other thing I was going to mention, and I'm only going to do this one time for this week. It's 4th and short. You have a guy that held out last year for this time of year and was, all the saga that you finally agreed to pay because you realize the value of how good a valuable running back is. You have a guard that at the time I believe was the highest paid in football. The marriage of those two should mean that when you have 4th and a yard or 2, you absolutely should have security and comfort. Why are you paying these guys the money you're paying them if you are not confident you can get 2 yards when you need it? Hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor and go right behind Quentin Nelson and get your first down, period. End of story.
Are you talking about the one that they converted?
No, the first drive when they had 4th down on the 40-yard line and they decide to go for it.
Yeah, they shouldn't have thrown. Yeah,
why are you throwing?
Or run with Richardson.
Hand the ball to your running back and go right behind your guard.
Or run with Richardson. And I know people had a problem with them going for it on 4th and goal, but that was, I think, the right call late in the game.
Understood.
To go for the 4th and goal.
Right.
I mean, if you looked at it, like, WPA-wise, that was the right call.
This Oktoberfest, we mentioned all the – let me tell you something. This time of year, this is perfect.
Yeah, really good.
Absolutely
It's not
perfect.
October yet, but they're celebrating October in September,
course.
Right? Oktoberfest is
that's
September
correct.
In Germany.
That's correct.
In Germany. Delicious lager here, German lager.
It's perfect beer.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect beer.
It tastes like Saturday morning fall.
Totally.
I'm about to walk over to the stadium right now.
Yeah.
And we just had, pulled pork sandos or whatever else. Or maybe you just had
Speaking
Hoagies and
of,
hot
just
sandos.
for example, it tastes
Chili
like
water
Saturday when Shannon and I are going to go see Purdue stun the world and beat Oregon. And you've got to get me a parking
Which
pass.
may not be so stunning anymore with the way Oregon's looking.
Oregon's
real,
off to a slow start.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
You'll like this. I signed
Did
up
you get
for
that parking pass
a
for me?
tour of Autzen Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm going to be in Eugene for the day. In 2 weeks, Purdue's playing Oregon State, but we're staying in Eugene. I'm going to fill in on the radio network on
How
the
far is
sidelines.
Eugene from Corvallis?
Like 40 minutes or something.
Okay.
And so I was like, hey, why don't I do Athletics says they have on their page we can do tours. And I was like, I'd love to do
This
that.
is perfect because if you are a representative for Purdue visiting Oregon, you can talk to both parties about getting me a parking pass for that game.
Yeah, I'll keep working on that. But congratulations to Alec Pierce. Chili Water Tap Room, Oktoberfest, check it out. I think they have it on tap too, but it's definitely in the fridge right now, in the can, and then the Market Street. Give it a try. It's a very underrated Sando. 42nd and Boulevard, hoagiesandhops.com. They do catering as well for your parties. Let's shift to college football. I don't think we have a ton to talk about because we're kind of looking ahead. Like, you don't learn anything from Indiana beating a high school team, scoring 77 points.
Western Illinois is really bad.
Western Illinois, I think.
I feel bad for him.
I mean, Rake, you tell me if I'm being overly crazy here. I think teams like UIndy or Marion honestly could compete with Western Illinois is horrific. They are. I know they're an FCS team. Not all FCS teams are created equal. I mean, they're the worst team in the country on that level. So good for Indiana because you're supposed to destroy, and good for them for scheduling that. But I think the problem that I have with the discussion about Indiana's schedule is that, fans are mad about them playing bad teams. They should play bad teams.
But here's the thing, Dirk. You got to keep this in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this. Indiana had dates with Louisville set.
Yeah, and they bought out of it.
And I can't remember. Was it Indiana that bought out or Louisville that bought out?
IU bought out.
But when they did, they had the opening on the schedule, and they didn't have it. Western Illinois was really all they could schedule.
No, and I understand. I'm not criticizing them for scheduling. They should schedule layups, but you can't schedule a layup and then read into it like it means something.
Right.
That's my problem. You can't schedule an easy win and then say, oh my God, we scored 77 points. No one else scored 70. Who cares? You learned 0 from that game. You won, great. You crushed them, awesome, but you move on. This is a game we're going to learn a lot from Indiana. UCLA is not any good.
Correct.
Indiana's favored in that game. The Rose Bowl, for all its pomp and circumstance, when it's actually a UCLA game, is a terrible atmosphere. Nobody goes. Nobody cares. I think if Indiana is going to get if you're one of those optimistic people about IU, which I am, I think you are as well. I'm expecting them to be a bowl team. You got to win this game.
Agreed.
You got to win this game. And they're favored to win that game. Purdue, I think suddenly it kind of goes to the old adage, right? Would you have rather had Notre Dame beat NIU by 4 touchdowns and feel confident coming in? Or would you rather get a wounded Notre Dame team after an embarrassment? But I think Purdue's got a real chance here, not only to be competitive, but potentially win with as limited as Notre Dame offense has looked through the first 2 games.
Which is stunning because they have, again, a transfer quarterback that was thought to be a guy that was going to be able to play
be
for
good,
them,
right? Yeah, and he has not been good.
I'm going to say what I've said for 3 days now. Notre Dame deserved to lose that game against Northern Illinois for 2 reasons. Number one, Northern Illinois punched them in the mouth in the trenches all game long. And when you get into MAC schools in the portal era, I think Northern Illinois made a great statement where they said, look, these are guys that stuck around and stuck with each other because a lot of times MAC schools now become the breeding ground for guys that were lightly recruited or overlooked that then show that they can play, and they get the chance. Carson Steele, they get the chance to go then and play for a big-time program because they made a name for themselves in the MAC. Northern Illinois has a lot of guys that said, no, we're going to stick this out and we're going to band together, and kudos to them. Northern Illinois fell victim on their final possession of the game to the worst spot in the history of football.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It was beyond bad.
It was really bad. I don't know what they were watching.
The player's knee went down beyond the first down line, let alone where the ball landed. He cleared the first down by 1.5 yards to 2 yards. It was like the most obvious thing ever. And Notre Dame gets the ball back with a chance. And then the football gods said, yeah, not today. Kudos to Northern Illinois. It was a great game. Now,
Thomas Hammock was almost our hero of the week. The head coach at NIU, Fort Wayne native.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What a win.
it was a great win for them. And Northern Illinois is a good – I mean, I
They've been
think
a good program, yeah, but
correct.
still, come on. Like, they were the better – that wasn't a fluke.
Correct. They beat them in the trenches.
They were better than they had like
Let me ask you this,
4
Derek.
drives stall on the Notre Dame 35-yard line. Like Northern Illinois had a chance to score every time they touched the ball.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm going to stick by this. If Notre Dame wins out, they still get in the playoffs.
They would need.
They have. Don't get me wrong. They have to win the remaining 2 true road games.
They would
That's going to
need
be tough.
several
2 of
things
them.
to happen. I mean, they would need USC or somebody to be good that they would need to hang their hat on win because I don't think Texas A&M is going to. I think Texas A&M is probably going to be like a 7 or 8 win team. Maybe
Always right.
I wouldn't write it off, but Jake, it's such a
They
damning.
take 12 teams and it's Notre Dame.
It's such a damning performance. It's almost like an automatic
But
disqualifier.
they fell to 18th, right?
Look,
Everybody in front of them is going to lose games.
Ohio State. Remember when they won the national championship? They lost to Virginia Tech at home, and I think they got beat pretty good. It was like 24-10.
And
That's Virginia Tech, man. Like that's a power program, and it's Virginia Tech. No offense to Northern Illinois. You lose to Northern Illinois. I mean, how do you construct that argument?
You have to look at who's in front. I'm just telling you. They're
I
Notre Dame.
understand what their schedule
They take
is.
12 in. They take 12.
Do you think Notre Dame's going to run the table after how they looked against Northern Illinois? I don't.
Well, I mean, like I said, they've got 2 really tough true road games.
I mean, they could
on
lose.
their schedule.
They could lose Saturday. It's
Right.
certainly not inconceivable that they could lose Saturday.
If they do, they got to make sure that they win their next 9 non-road games.
Other things, 6 SEC teams make up the top 7. Half of those have already picked up Power 4 wins. Georgia obviously beat Clemson. Texas looked great against Michigan, even though I think Michigan is like a 7-5, 8-4 level team. Tennessee crushed NC State. So, I mean, that league is what it's always been, right? It's tough to go against. I mean, the SEC. And the Big Ten, it's got some teams. They need Oregon to kick it into gear. I think what the Big Ten has going for it is that I don't think there's any reason why Ohio State can't win the whole thing again. I mean, they look.
Yeah,
I think
of
you
course.
clearly have Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, in whatever order you want to put them, and then like a little bit of a drop off to the next group of teams. But we're only 2 weeks in, so things can obviously
Who's
change.
going to be? Let me ask you this, Derek. We're going to make this prediction right now for fun in the middle of September. When the final college football rankings come out, and they take 12, who's number 12?
Well, it'd be a group of 5 team, right? That's the rule. So it's the top 11, and then the group of 5 team gets the 12.
What's group of 5?
The non-Power
That's right.
4 leagues. So right now it would be Northern Illinois because they're ranked. They're the highest ranked group of 5 team.
Okay, then 11.
Then number
sorry.
11, yeah. I mean, I always feel like that's Penn State's spot, right? Like, isn't Ole Miss? Isn't like Penn State?
Ole Miss is
like,
the one I was going to
yeah,
say.
they're like they go 9-3 or 10-2 every year. They lose every big game that they play.
Notre Dame's up there, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame has been on that tier 2. But those are the teams that I think of. Oregon might be there. If Oregon, let's say Oregon goes 10-2 and they don't make the Big Ten title game, they might be good enough to be 11th.
Okay, just pick it right now, though. Who's it going to be?
It's the Penn State spot. It's the Penn State spot. It just is. We come back on the show, quick hits.
Arizona State.
We lost James Earl Jones. We'll talk about that. And congratulating a Indianapolis sports legend. And it's probably not who you're thinking of. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey.
Welcome back. Corey and Schultz presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group, ISC Sports Network. Let's get to a couple of quick hits. Big story last night. James Earl Jones has left us, the legendary actor and voice. As much as he was an on-screen presence, his
Did
voice.
you see my Twitter poll?
Yeah, it was the movie that you most associate with him, right?
I mean, I think most people, James Earl Jones, in terms of his voice,
Yeah.
3 things he's most known. I mean, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Lion King.
Mufasa, yeah.
And this is CNN. That's also his voice, I believe. But in terms of his acting roles, Hunt for Red October
Yeah.
was way
My
up
dad
there.
loved that movie.
Dr. Strangelove, going way
I never
back.
saw, yeah.
He was obviously a tremendous stage actor, so there's a lot that but in terms of the big screen, the silver screen, the one that most people remembered him for, there were really three, I think, that jumped out. He was the father in Coming to America. He was, of course, in The Sandlot. But the one that I think most people remembered him for was Field of Dreams.
Yeah,
according to my Twitter survey, at least.
There might be a little bit, and I understand these movies were semi-close. There might be a little bit of a generational divide on that, where people in your generation would firmly be Field of Dreams, whereas people in mine would have been maybe more Sandlot.
Well, but the difference being this, and I don't disagree with you, but the difference being people that were of the age when Field of Dreams came out, the generation following it also have watched Field of Dreams. Whereas with The Sandlot, the people that, when The Sandlot came out, the generation before them has probably not gone back to watch The Sandlot.
I think Field of Dreams transcends generation, whereas Sandlot to the 90s is what Fast Time is to the 80s. If you were in it then, it was relevant. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is not relevant to me at all. Or Revenge of the Nerds or any of those kind of those sort of movies, because it wasn't my generation.
I would think Revenge of the Nerds would resonate with you.
I did get some revenge. I wasn't a nerd, but I got some revenge. Is
On
this
who?
weird to say?
Did
James
you get
Earl
revenge
Jones, by the time he was relevant, to me, growing up, he was already in his 60s and already
Correct.
gray.
No.
He's just one of those, look, I know everybody dies, right? We're all going to die. You and I are going to die. He's one of those guys that you just felt like he was going to be around forever.
Totally agree with
right?
that.
and
well,
that's what makes it sad.
The other interesting thing about him, and I mean this as a positive, when you saw that he was 93, my first thought was he was 93 like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, he's just one of those people that just he doesn't really age or anything like that. So rest in peace, obviously, to James Earl Jones. What an amazing life. Angel Reese's historic rookie season is over. Suffered a season-ending wrist injury. Look, I know this has been a little bit of a rivalry. The Rookie of the Year award has been on ice for a while. I think people tried to make that into something that it wasn't, but Reese really did. I mean, she was like the 7th pick in the draft, right? So this was not – Caitlin Clark was guaranteed to be a star. Like, she was always going to be a phenomenon, right? Angel Reese, there were a lot of big questions about whether she was going to be a really good pro player, and she's obviously answered those questions. So I'm a little bit bummed. The Sky had the chance to sneak in as the last playoff seed, and they probably weren't going to see the Fever again. But, you get one of those prominent – she's got umpteen followers on TikTok and Instagram and all that. She's one of the faces of the league, whether you like her or not. To not have her around for the rest of the season is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Great player,
Yeah.
and the rivalry was kind of fun.
Yeah, it absolutely
probably got a little old after a while, but it was fun.
About 13.5 points, 13 rebounds per game, and she did set that WNBA record with 15 straight double-doubles, even though 11 points and 10 rebounds doesn't really do anything for me, but to do it 15 straight times, that's something nobody else has done.
By the way, Derek, let's talk a little IU Indy, who last night, by the way, we're taping this on Tuesday, Monday in men's soccer, IU Indy defeating Akron. That is a huge win for the IU Indy soccer team, and that takes us to our IU Indy moment and telling you about some of the great moments. I keep saying, when it comes to Division I athletics, you've got it right here in Indianapolis with IU Indy, and it's affordable. It's a perfect way to introduce young people to a college atmosphere and to college athletics and to support local athletes, because many of those on the roster are local athletes. IU Indy's women's soccer, 1-1 in their homestand this past weekend, taking on Eastern Illinois and Butler on Thursday and Sunday night. And the Jaguars beat the Panthers with a 2-0 shutout win. Caroline Kelly and Ella Green contributing goals in the first half of that game. This marked Ashton Kutio's 13th career shutout. IU Indy now, they lost to Butler 3-1 on Sunday night. Cutio registered 12 saves in the loss. The Jags' next game, at Ball State. So this week at Ball State on Thursday at 4 o'clock. In terms of volleyball, IU Indy volleyball took down crosstown rival Butler 3-1 in a packed jungle last Wednesday with a crowd of over 800 in the building for Spirit Night. That was a red out. Elle Patterson and Maya Long led the way with 10 kills apiece. The Jags went on the road following the game to the Bellarmine Volleyball Classic, went 1-2 over the weekend, beating Bellarmine 3-1 but falling short to Cincinnati and Alabama Birmingham. IU Indy continues their road stint out east at the D.C. Shakedown in Georgetown. George Washington and Ryder will be there as well. That's in D.C. this weekend. Their next home game, it's another big one. It's going to be against Indiana State on Wednesday. And as you can tell right there, an awesome environment in the jungle. So be sure to check that out. And then again, as mentioned, IU men's soccer beating Akron, which is awesome. That took place yesterday. They will be at Wright State on Saturday at 3 o'clock for the Horizon League, the first Horizon League matchup of the season for them. So men's soccer rocking and rolling. In terms of season tickets, women's and men's season tickets are available right now for sports at iuindyjags.com/ticket. That's iuindyjags.com/tickets. Buy yours today. It's affordable. It's right here in town. It's local athletes. And again, when I was a kid, my parents would take me to these games. And, Derek, that was the first chance, just like you, with small colleges in your area, to get exposure to college athletics and really get a feel for it.
We used to go to Fairfield U games, and they played in, and they still do. They play in the MAC, and we'd go see them play Iona or Siena or whoever else.
Don't forget, by the way, for men's and women's basketball, eventually on-campus arena there, but games returning to the Jags home. You saw it there, the home gym of the Jungle this year for men's and women's basketball. So take that into consideration when thinking about the tickets for iuindyjags.com /tickets, the website.
An impressive volleyball beating Butler. How about that?
It's very cool.
That's
very,
really
very
good.
Cool.
Final
I
sign
love
off
the
here before we get to Chateau Kitchens and Bite or Bulbleep. Congratulations to Razor Shines.
Razor Shines.
His number 3 will be retired over a 3-day ceremony this weekend at Victory Field. Razor Shines weekend. The actual jersey retiring will be Saturday night. The only Indians player to ever receive the honor. So, basically 5 Pacers and I think like 8 Colts going back to – Peyton is the only – did you know this? Peyton Manning is the only officially Indianapolis Colt retired number.
Correct.
Everybody else is Baltimore.
Correct.
So, obviously, there's 18 people in the Ring of Honor, but like Dallas Clark, but even Dwight Freeney. I don't think – Rake, I know people have worn 93. I don't think anyone's worn 87 since Reggie. Yeah, so –
That may be right.
Yeah, there's a chance. What's the other one? Okay, and Marvin. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think you'll eventually see, once this Ring of Honor stuff peters out, they'll put in Bob Sanders probably next year. Once this Ring of Honor thing peters out, I think they'll bring back Harrison and Reggie to retire their numbers. I would bet.
You think
Colts go 8 and 9 a couple more years.
You think they bring back Bob Sanders?
And they keep doing it. I firmly, especially now that Clark got in, I firmly believe that Bob Sanders will get in the Ring of Honor. Yes.
Furious debate I got on the radio show one day with Jimmy and Eddie on the radio show that I do, where I told them that of the non-triplets during the Super Bowl era, Bob Sanders was the most popular player, and they're like, no, and I'm like,
they're wrong. Yeah, they're wrong. That's not even a debate.
Right,
150%. It's right.
Yeah,
I mean, at the peak of his popularity, Bob Sanders was far more popular than Marvin Harrison.
He was the second most popular player behind Peyton Manning, probably.
Far more popular than Marvin Harrison ever was. And part of that is Marvin. I mean, Marvin stayed to himself. He wasn't
but even
the most approachable
I would
guy.
go so far as to say at his peak, and it was a very short window, but at his peak, Sanders might have been more popular than Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, I think in the immediate wake of the Super Bowl into his DPOY season, he was the second most popular
player of the year.
Colt to Manning. Reggie kind of took off after that. Reggie was good like 05, 06, but Reggie became like an all-pro level player like 07, 08, 09.
Reggie became a beloved figure once those other guys were gone and people saw what a leader he was.
Yeah. And once he started doing a radio show, and then people were like, whoa, like Reggie Wayne's on the radio, and he did it with us at 950.
How many years did we do that?
And then we did 3 seasons. His final 3 years, 12, 13, and 14.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There were some great moments in there.
One of the places that we did it is no longer around.
Yeah, Detour was the first one.
Well, and then Latitude
360.
Which became Latitude 39. It's gone.
And then we did George's Neighborhood Grill. There could be a nuclear war, and George's Neighborhood Grill would still be there at 71st.
But they just sold it. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. Did they? Yeah.
He sold it, yes.
Oh.
Still there, though. Still good place.
He was really excited to have Reggie Wayne there at George's Neighborhood Grill. Was his name George? I don't remember.
His last name. Yes.
Okay. The last name was George. We come back. Chateau Kitchens, Bite or Bulbleep, and we will wrap this thing up. It's Corey and Schultz, episode 202 on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgages and snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Why are you just staring at the camera?
You take us into the last one. You always have.
I don't
So
think
I
that's
was
ever
just
been the
gonna.
case.
I was just seeing if you remember that you're the one that takes us in.
Hi, my name is Jake Query. This is Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network, and apparently I'm the guy that takes it out of break on the last segment.
It's not an intro. You know, like it's a rejoin. So we've already set the table for the show. People know who we are.
No, no one knows who we are.
We've done the intros.
That's the problem, Derek. No one knows who we are.
Welcome back for a final time.
202. So this is Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah, I think 202 is the DC area code.
What's 203?
Oh, I'm so happy that you asked.
Connecticut?
Yes, Trumbull, Connecticut. It's 203.
No way.
Yep, 100%. 203-268-7096 was my phone number growing up.
Hold on, I'm going to run that number down and see who it belongs to.
203 area code, yep.
Hold on. 203.
268-7096.
7096?
Yep. Are you doing the slide dial thing?
Bruce Mary Schultz.
Yeah.
Still have it.
Oh, nobody put in a landline probably after they sold the house. They sold the house 10 years ago. But
So it comes up, yeah.
Yep, that was our old phone number there.
Okay.
Do you know that I shouldn't publicly say that? I don't know.
Do you know, though,
People,
that with landlines now, I won't say any names, but I have a friend whose father passed, unfortunately, a while ago. And so he called the phone company to have the number turned off, which would be kind of an emotional thing because his dad, his parents had it for 50 years or whatever. And the phone company, and I'll give them credit, this was nice, they said, would you like to retain this number for sentimental purposes for a cell phone?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat that they can do that. I didn't realize that. Time for Buy It or Bold Bleep. Brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchen, chateaukitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook, before and after pictures. I posted one last night of me in my basement with our friends at High and Mighty. They brought over some of their delicious canned cocktails, and people saw the basement and were like, wow, who did your basement? I'm like, Chateau Kitchens did the basement. They did our guest bathroom.
Who was over again?
They did High and Mighty. Do you know those folks that did those canned cocktails? Yeah, they're great. They're great people. It's a guy and his wife, and they're awesome, and they've really grown. But they are Midtown enthusiasts, and they dropped off some of their canned cocktails in Midtown. They're trying to get local celebrities involved with it, and obviously they thought of me.
So what were they doing at your house?
Statement number one. Buy It or Bold Bleep. Alec Pierce will have more receiving yards than A.D. Mitchell this season.
Bull Schultz.
Yeah, I agree.
He'll have more home run hits.
I agree.
But more base hits for A.D. Mitchell.
30 catches for like 550 yards is what I'm thinking for Alec Pierce, right? Whereas I think Mitchell will get up to the 45, 50. I really do think that they're going to use him a lot. I don't usually, agree. Like with Paris Campbell, I was always like, pump the brakes. I do think that they have big plans for A.D. Mitchell. So I'm going to say Bull Bleep as well. Marcus Freeman will not be the coach for Notre Dame after next season. I don't think he's going to get fired this year.
I buy that.
Yeah.
Not because of Marcus. No knock on Marcus Freeman. That's in a big time program, which is what Notre Dame is. You've got about a 4-year window to get it right.
It's tough to learn on the job.
Yeah.
You know, Brian Kelly in year 3, they were in the title game. Lou Holtz in year 3, they won the title. Charlie Weiss in year 3, they went 3-9. So
schematic advantage, Derek.
You can kind of see the coaches that have succeeded have done well in year 3. The coaches that have not done well in year 3.
Right.
And
all right, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Buy It or Bull Schultz. There will be 3 teams from the AFC South in the postseason.
I'm going to say Bull Bleep. I don't think Tennessee's going to be very good.
3.
Yeah, I know. I don't think Tennessee's going to be very good, and I think odds are that somebody else falls on the side.
So you think Jacksonville falls?
Oh, do we have 10 seconds left? Oh, 10. Okay. Thanks to all our sponsors, and thank you so much for listening to the show. Sorry, Vince he was late on the queue. It's Query and Schultz. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Sorry.
At base.